Hey guys, it's Jay here, your spiritual INTJ. Welcome to Faith Evolved. If you're new here, please click on the videos and take a look around and see if you like what you see. And if you do, please hit the subscribe button below and hit the notification bell so you'll receive any notifications when I release new videos. Alright, so today's topic is there really any proof that God exists? I mean, we're getting some down to brass tacks here, folks. This is fundamental. This is existential. Get ready. Stay tuned. Alright, so is there really any proof that God exists? Now, if you're watching this channel, you're probably already at least a theist. Maybe you're a Christian. Maybe you're a Rancha book reader or A Course in Miracles, or just, someone who's into spirituality, and you're like, of course we know God exists. Or maybe you say, I don't call him God, I call him Source, or Goddess, or whatever the case may be. But most people that are watching this channel are probably already believers in some kind of higher power. But really the question here is to really kind of get into more of the philosophical idea of proving the existence of God. Most people who do not believe in God believe there's no evidence for God. And, some of them are really what I consider hardcore atheists, or like, first degree atheists. Let's call them that, where they have, no belief in God. There's no evidence for God. There could never be any proof of God. Just no, there's no God. Then there's what I would call second degree atheists. There's no proof, but they might be open to some proof. They're waiting for God to open up the sky and say, I am God, or something, And then there's third degree atheists, which really I consider foxhole atheists. They're really agnostic in my opinion. And they believe there could be a God, but he's not knowable, or at least, he's not some kind of a person. He's not a personal God that you can get to know. Now I contend personally that there's unequivocally 100% proof of at least an intelligent designer at work with the cosmos. I think the biggest proof in my mind, pun intended, is consciousness. Just the ability to think, the ability to say, what is God? What is this? What is this life? What is this existence? What are these things in my head called thoughts? Just the ability to perceive of yourself, the ego. That right there to me is proof that there is some kind of existential existence, if that makes any sense. So mind, ideas, thoughts, those to me are as close to spirituality as you can get, as close to the spiritual realm, as close to, the source of existence as you can possibly get, in my humble opinion. But then you also have other things too, like space and time. But it's not just that, because sometimes Christians or atheists, or Christians and theists will try to have debates with atheists and explain, oh, but you can see, creation all around you. You can see the trees and the birds and humans and DNA and all this stuff, the atoms and cells and just irreducible complexity, and throw all these little things at them, and they're going to be like, yeah, I still don't believe you. And they'll have their own, retort to it. But, it's not just space and time. And it's not just a matter that you fill the space and time up with. You have to also understand that it takes a lot more than just that. Like if if you're into computer programming, for example, it takes more than just some code. Where's the code going to be compiled? Who's going to debug it? Who's going to test it to make sure it works? What software and hardware are you going to use to test it on? What other dependencies does it have? What other, software is it working with? It needs to be integrated with. And, what logic are you going to use? What language? There's so much that goes into it. And I'm not a computer programmer. I work with XML and SQL, and I know some. But I understand the concept that it's not just a code that's on the screen, What makes that screen work? And it's the same thing with the universe of space and time. You also have, the laws that allow the space and time to exist in. You have gravity and physics and quantum mechanics, mathematics, and then there's also other things too on top of that we as humans experience that, you probably can't understand with code, or you probably can't, decipher with laws of the universe or science. You know, you have like concepts like love, joy, peace, happiness, and you have other intangible concepts like laughter, humor, appreciation for art and music, you know, feeling awe and inspiration, you know, getting goosebumps when you listen to an amazing song on the radio, you know, intuition, you know, I mean, all these different, you know, psychic abilities that people have. Like, how do you explain that? You know, did that just come out of nowhere? Did that just, you know, come from the Big Bang? You know, it just doesn't make sense. But I will concede this one point, atheists. All these facts and figures and, you know, just descriptions do fall short of actually proving beyond a shadow of a doubt in a personal God. An actual person, an intelligence who actually can love you and appreciate you and know you. So that, I can certainly say, is really, I think, where atheists are coming from with their lack of belief. It's because it's not just that there has to be a God that, you know, physically created everything. There also has to be a God that you can know. And not only know, but know that you're on his right side, or her right side, or its right side. So this really what it comes down to is the only proof you can have for yourself in a personal God is your own personal experience. So I want to read a couple quotes here from the Urantia book, which is a great spiritual book that has helped me along the way with my spiritual awakening. This says right here, the existence of God can never be proved by a scientific experiment or by pure reason of logical deduction. God can be realized only in the realms of human experience. Nevertheless, the true concept of the reality of God is reasonable to logic, plausible to philosophy, essential to religion, and indispensable to any hope of personality survival. If you think about it in the end, why does it matter if we believe in God or not? Well, if you want continuity of existence, you need to believe that someone higher than you has the ability to keep your life going. Those who know God have experienced the fact of his presence. Such God-knowing mortals hold in their personal experience the only positive proof of the existence of a living God which one human being can offer to another. That's in paper 24, section 5. Here's another good one here. God is so all real and absolute that no material sign of proof or no demonstration of so-called miracle may be offered in testimony of his reality. Always will we know him because we trust him, and our belief in him is wholly based on our personal participation in the divine manifestations of his infinite reality. That's in paper 102. Here's another one. Man's contact with the highest objective reality, God, is only through the purely subjective experience of knowing him, of worshiping him, of realizing sonship with him. That's in paper 196. So you might be thinking to yourself, well, that's all well and good, you know, personal experience, you know, but what does that mean for me if I haven't had that personal experience yet? Well, there's a couple things that you can look to. Number one, I would say, is the experience of others. You know, you see somebody else that is in touch with God, you know, that is able to commune with God. You know, obviously they're not, you know, seeing God in person, but they are so sure of his presence in their lives. And the stories abound, you know, like near-death experiences, you know, pre-birth experiences and spiritual experiences, or spiritually transformative experiences, as they call them. There's just so many different, you know, stories, anecdotal, what have you, of just people having experiences with God. And I liken it to a blind person who's born like that, from birth, no ability to see, no concept of what sight is. And everybody else around him is saying, oh, do you see that? Yeah, I can see that. It's blue. Oh, it's square. Oh, it's about 30 feet over there. And this guy's like, I have no idea what they're even talking about. What is seeing? He has no concept because there's literally nothing in his brain connected to his eyes to register that. So he has no history of being able to see, no reference point, and just literally no concept at all of what seeing is. So he has to take our word for it that everybody else around him can see. That's kind of what it's like. But you can use that as kind of like proof, almost of what you don't see, as proof of what is there. You know, there are, for example, there are some like animals who have, the ability to see beyond the range of, the spectrum we can see, or hear beyond the spectrum, or higher or lower frequencies than we can. But we don't disagree that those frequencies exist. So sometimes you can even use examples of what you can't see, but somebody else or something else can see or hear, as maybe a way to invoke some faith that maybe there is something beyond your current capacity of understanding of the universe. But I think I can give you a little bit better than that. We all know of a character who showed up on the scene about 2,000 years ago. Call himself Jesus. And I do believe that he was God incarnate on this earth. He came from the Father directly, spoke with the Father all the time, and lived a perfect, impeccable life of love and service to humanity. And if you ever read about Jesus in the Bible, or maybe even the Urantia book, you would see just the pull of his personality, of the perfect example, the perfect model of a human and what a human could be. And you look to him and go, I can't help but to love the guy. He's just amazing. Everything about him is just amazing. And that is another pull towards spiritual reality. Now, how do we know he was God? We don't. I have no proof that Jesus was God. But like I said, what you see in this man is his life and his teachings, and how it changed the hearts and minds of men and had a positive impact in their lives. Actually gave them purpose to live, and meaning, and hope in a future. And there's another thing to consider. If you were God, what would you want? If you had everything, you knew everything. Of course you would choose everything good, and you would cast out of your presence everything negative. You would want love 100% of the time and fear none of the time. All right? You would want the ability to know everything. And to know everything would mean that you knew everything perfectly and how to get everything that you want in your existence. So even as human beings, we know that pretty much every action that we take in our lives is to try to gain pleasure in any way we can and simultaneously decrease our pain and avoid it as much as possible. We seek the good and try to detract from or avoid evil and pain in our lives. So what is that drives us to that? Something of beyond ourselves that's greater than us, and seeking joy and pleasure and peace and just all these good things and trying to run away from everything that hurts us. Well, it's a concept from the Urantia book called Truth, Beauty, and Goodness. These are the concepts that bring us closer to the spiritual realm and ultimately to the character of God. So why do we feel so far from ultimate perfection in this world of pain, sorrow, and death? Well, that's because we're finite creatures. We're only, seeing a small fragment, of a huge cosmos. And our minds can only have so much capacity to understand infinity, eternity. We're just living in this tiny little speck in space. We're limited within time and space with our knowledge as well. So we don't even know that much even about ourselves and our own solar system, never mind the universe. And the Urantia book says that there are 12 planets, and yet we only know 8, maybe 9 if you don't count Pluto being a dwarf planet anymore. So there's so much, so much we don't know. And the more you know, the more you know that you don't know everything. And really, we know like 0.00000, keep writing the zeros about for a year straight, 1% of what there is to know. And what there is to know is constantly growing as well, because God's always expanding. So, look at it this way, folks. For anybody to be so presumptuous to say there is no God or even no proof that there could be a God, I think honestly is not being, it's not really being honest with themselves, not being intellectually honest, that they really don't truly know. So one more thing I want to say is, although there's a lot that we don't know, there's a lot more out there about who we are, what we are, how we got here, what else is out there in the cosmos, and answers to many other of our existential questions in life. And I think it's beautifully summed up in the Urantia book. So I definitely encourage you to take a look at the book, peruse the papers, see if anything stands out and, jumps out at the page for you, and just take a read, take a listen, You might find something in there that brings that truth, beauty, and goodness sensor on in your heart and your soul and makes you believe, maybe, just maybe, there's something more than just our isolated existence on this lonely planet called Earth. God bless.